pitch-black night in the Texas desert. 1846, the air fills with the thunder of cannon fire and desperate shouts of soldiers. A young American fighter, caught in the chaos, calls out for his mother as enemy cavalry charges through the darkness. Moments later, a deafening explosion shakes the ground, scattering men in every direction. That terrifying night marked only the beginning of 2 years of fierce conflict, the Mexican-American War, a brutal struggle for land and power that would reshape the entire map of North America. This war emerged from a complex mix of territorial ambition, political calculation, long-standing border tensions, and ideological fervor. The Mexican-American War, fought from 1846 to 1848, was far more than a simple border dispute. It became a pivotal and transformative conflict that resulted in massive territorial changes, significant loss of life, widespread economic and social hardship, and long-lasting consequences for both nations involved. Driven by the powerful ideology of manifest destiny, the United States sought to expand westward across the entire continent, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Mexico, having only recently gained independence from Spain in 1821, was still navigating internal political instability, economic challenges, regional revolts, and the difficult process of nation-building. These vulnerabilities placed it in a challenging position when facing its rapidly growing northern neighbor. The outcome was dramatic. Mexico lost nearly half of its national territory in one of the largest single land transfers in modern history, while the United States dramatically increased its size, resources, and strategic influence. Yet the cost was substantial for both sides, with thousands of soldiers and civilians affected not only by combat but also by disease, supply shortages, harsh terrain, and the broader disruptions of wartime life. The roots of the conflict ran deep and developed over more than a decade. After Texas declared independence from Mexico in 1836, following the Texas Revolution, it existed as an independent republic for nearly 10 years. The United States annexed Texas in 1845, an action Mexico viewed as an act of aggression. A major disagreement immediately arose over the southern border of Texas. Mexico maintained it was the Nueces River, while the United States claimed it extended all the way to the Rio Grande, more than 150 miles farther south. This disputed strip of land became the flashpoint. President James K. Polk, a dedicated expansionist elected in 1844, actively pursued further territorial gains. He sent diplomat John Slidell to Mexico City in late 1845 with instructions to offer to purchase the territories of California and New Mexico for substantial sums. But the Mexican government, facing domestic pressure, refused even to receive the envoy. In early 1846, Polk ordered General Zachary Taylor to march U.S. troops into the disputed territory between the Nueces and the Rio Grande, a move widely seen as provocative. These diplomatic and military maneuvers set the stage for open conflict. The war officially began in late April 1846 with the Thornton Affair, when Mexican cavalry attacked a small American patrol in the disputed zone, resulting in American casualties. President Polk seized the moment and asked Congress for a declaration of war, famously stating that American blood had been shed on American soil. Congress approved the declaration on May 13, 1846, though the decision was far from unanimous. Opposition was strong in some quarters, particularly in the North. A young Illinois congressman named Abraham Lincoln introduced the spot resolutions, questioning exactly where the initial bloodshed had occurred and challenging the administration's justification. Many critics viewed the war as an unjust land grab designed to expand territory where slavery could potentially spread. The war unfolded across multiple theaters, each with its own challenges and strategic importance. In northern Mexico, General Zachary Taylor achieved early and important victories. On May 8, 1846, at the Battle of Palo Alto, Taylor's force of approximately 2,200 troops faced a larger Mexican army under General Mariano Arista. American artillery proved decisive on the open prairie, forcing the Mexicans to withdraw. The following day, at Resaca de la Palma, the engagement shifted to denser brushland, resulting in another American success and a disorganized Mexican retreat. These initial battles highlighted the growing technological and organizational edge of U.S. forces. Taylor continued his southward advance. In September 1846, his army fought a hard multi-day battle for the important city of Monterrey. American troops faced determined resistance in street-by-street and house-to-house fighting, with Mexican defenders utilizing rooftops, barricades, and strong buildings. After intense combat, the city surrendered, and Taylor's forces established occupation. This period tested relations between occupying troops and local Mexican civilians, leading to cultural frictions, economic strains, and occasional incidents that complicated governance. Simultaneously, in the Western Territories, Colonel Stephen W. Kearny led a relatively swift and successful campaign. His column captured Santa Fe, New Mexico, in August 1846 with almost no resistance. Kearny then proceeded into California, where American settlers had already declared the short-lived Bear Flag Republic in Sonoma. Several smaller but significant engagements took place, most notably the Battle of San Pascual in December 1846, where Mexican cavalry under Andres Pico delivered a sharp counterattack against Kearny's forces. Over time, combined U.S. naval and land operations secured control of California by early 1847. One of the war's most remarkable episodes unfolded in February 1847 at the Battle of Buena Vista, also called Angostura, in northern Mexico. Mexican leader Antonio López de Santa Anna personally commanded an army of roughly 15,000 to 20,000 men. They endured an extraordinarily arduous march across vast desert regions. Suffering from extreme thirst, hunger, and exhaustion, they confronted Taylor's much smaller force of about 4,700 troops. The two-day battle on rugged hillsides involved heavy artillery exchanges and repeated infantry assaults. Although Santa Anna's forces came close to breaking through at several points, they ultimately withdrew. Both sides endured significant losses, compounded by the difficult environmental conditions and limited medical support. While Taylor maintained pressure in the north, General Winfield Scott launched a bold and innovative campaign along the eastern coast. In March 1847, Scott's troops executed the largest amphibious landing in U.S. military history up to that time near the port city of Veracruz, following a carefully coordinated 20-day siege. Supported by naval bombardment, the city surrendered. Once inland, however, the army faced a new and formidable enemy: disease. Yellow fever and other tropical illnesses spread quickly, claiming far more lives in many units than direct combat. Scott's forces then advanced toward Mexico City. In April 1847, they achieved a major victory at Cerro Gordo by executing a brilliant flanking maneuver through steep, mountainous terrain, forcing Santa Anna to retreat hastily and abandon much of his artillery. The campaign continued through the summer with additional challenging battles at Contreras, Churubusco, and Molino del Rey, each requiring careful coordination and determination. The climax arrived in September 1847. On September 13th, American forces launched a major assault on the strategic hilltop fortress of Chapultepec, which was defended in part by young Mexican military cadets known as the Niños Héroes. After sustained artillery preparation, U.S. troops advanced up the slopes. Several of the cadets displayed notable courage in the defense. The following day, September 14th, Scott's army entered Mexico City. Although large-scale combat operations largely ended, occasional guerrilla actions and civilian resistance created ongoing security challenges for the occupying forces. Throughout the occupied regions, the war imposed significant hardships on Mexican civilians, including supply disruptions, economic difficulties, and the everyday strains of living under foreign military presence. On the American side, disease remained a constant and deadly threat. Of the approximately 13,000 total U.S. deaths during the war, the vast majority, at around 11,000, were caused by illness such as dysentery, malaria, and yellow fever rather than battlefield wounds. Mexican losses were also substantial, though precise numbers are more difficult to verify. They included military casualties, as well as civilian impacts from displacement and economic collapse. The war formally concluded on February 2, 1848, with the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Under its terms, Mexico recognized the U.S. annexation of Texas and ceded an enormous expanse of territory, including present-day California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona and New Mexico, and portions of Colorado, Wyoming, and other areas in exchange for $15 million and the assumption of certain Mexican debts. This massive land transfer, often called the Mexican Cession, more than doubled the size of the United States and realized much of the Manifest Destiny vision. The consequences of the war extended well beyond the signing of the treaty. In the United States, the newly acquired territories intensified debates over the expansion of slavery, contributing directly to the sectional crises and political polarization that eventually led to the Civil War in 1861. For Mexico, the conflict represented a profound national trauma. The sudden loss of such a vast territory affected the country's economy, security, demographic balance, and collective sense of identity for generations. Many Mexican families who remained in the ceded lands suddenly found themselves under a new government, navigating changes in language, law, land ownership, and cultural practices. The war also served as a crucial training ground for a generation of young American officers, including future Civil War leaders such as Robert E. Lee, Ulysses S. Grant, William Tecumseh Sherman, and George Meade. It demonstrated the growing importance of combined arms tactics, amphibious operations, modern artillery, and effective logistics in warfare. In the end, the Mexican-American War stands as one of the most consequential chapters in North American history. It was shaped by ambition and a sense of national destiny on one side, and by resistance, resilience, and survival on the other. While it delivered vast new lands, resources, and opportunities to the United States, it also carried significant human, moral, and political costs. For Mexico, it marked a painful period of loss that continues to resonate in national memory and historiography. The events of 1846-1848 continue to influence the geography, politics, economy, and bilateral relationship between the United States and Mexico today. They serve as a lasting reminder of the profound and often complex impacts that territorial conflicts can have on nations, peoples, and future generations.